All right. Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770. Welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Friday, October 2nd. I'm Donald Hovis, your CWRAP host from the Chicora Rotary Club in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We are pleased to be joined by a fellow Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Cypress Fairbanks, that is located in Cypress, Texas. Mr. Wayne Beaumier is also the District 5890 Disaster Chairman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, fellow Rotarians.
We're looking forward to your presentation here in just a few minutes. Up first, I'll introduce our CWRAP team. Our purple pinky polio power queen wearing a purple wig on every Zoom call in the month of October, and our public image chair for our Rotary District from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia. Currently, though, on a little long weekend getaway up in Cherry Grove, Mary Gass. Good morning, Mary. And our District Communications Officer from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, South Carolina, Mr. Terry Moore. Terry, good morning. Those of you on the call, thank you for being here. A few of you have already introduced yourself in the chat box. However, remember, there's always a question of the day that comes with your introduction. So here we go. For Friday, October 2nd, I want to know your Rotary Club. Well, your name first, sorry. Your Rotary Club, your classification, and then answer this question. If you could be on a reality TV show, which one would you want to be on? All right. So I've got Mr. Wayne Beaumier's bio here, so let me pull that up. And all right, so Wayne Beaumier Sr. from the Rotary Club of Cypress Fairbanks in Cypress, Texas. He's the past president of two clubs in Rotary District 5890, Presidential Citation Award winner, and he has served 4 times as Assistant Governor, Distinguished Service and Community Service Award winner. He was the Club and District 5890 Rotarian of the Year. Disaster USA is an active member of VOAD, which is the voluntary organization active in disasters Gulf Coast chapter. Wayne is one of the ambassadors for the Houston, Texas area as Zone 25B chairman in charge of developing 8 district strike teams. Currently, our Zone 25B has 5 domestic response trailers and 1 commercial drying trailer to assist the public in case of natural or man-made disasters. He has been deployed out of the country 4 times and has responded to over 15 domestic disasters and has logged over 7,000 volunteer hours. Wayne was promoted to chairman of the board of Disaster USA in January of 2018 and will continue his zone role as well as helping develop domestic response units and international DARTS, which stands for Disaster Aid Response Team. Wayne is employed by Standard Safety Equipment, a USA branded manufacturing of high-end usable chemical fabrics and chemical clothing. His focus is on refineries and chemical companies that use sulfuric or hydrofluoric acid. He has worked there for more than 30 years and mixes Rotary with his work responsibilities as Vice President of Sales and handles all aspects of the company's distribution networks worldwide. Disaster USA, or short for DA USA, is currently deployed to both North and South Louisiana and currently has a team in Pensacola, Florida. Wayne, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Donald. Good morning, fellow Rotarians. Thank you for the introduction. It sounds like a lot, but I figure if the bio goes long, I don't have to talk very long. So thank you.
Well, we're excited to have you. First, I want to say thank you for what you have been doing for people around the country here recently. And folks, you know, Wayne actually is going to be leaving right after this call to head to Louisiana to do a full weekend of chainsawing. So thank you for what you're doing, sir.
You're welcome. Chainsaw's probably my weakest thing, so I might as well go practice when the trees are down. So it's easy to get it off the roof when it's already on the ground. So not too dangerous when it's on the ground.
Excellent. So I have some questions for you. I know you're going to be sharing your screen as well. Would you like some of the questions first, or you want to go through the presentation?
So I'll do the questions first because a lot of times I do the presentation for Rotarians and non-Rotarians. So if I go over some things that are boring, I apologize, Rotarians. But I've learned a long time ago, start from the beginning because I may pique someone's interest in what we do as a club project. So if you don't mind, Donald, I'll take the questions first.
Excellent. And those of you on the call, if you have a question for Wayne, how about post that in the chat box throughout the call, and I will ask those to him at the end of today's segment. So up first, Wayne, I would love for you to tell us how and why was Disaster Aid USA started?
So Disaster Aid USA was started in June of 2010. We had a lot of our board members were highly involved with Shelter Box. We're still fellow Rotarians. We still work side by side with Shelter Box. And they really focus on tents and international projects. And we do tents and international. But we wanted to start a domestic division of disaster. And that's really not Shelter Box's bailiwick. They do a fantastic job overseas, and we still tarp roofs with them. You know, I still go to their fundraisers and vice versa. But we wanted something that was set up specifically for us to do something domestic. So that's why Disaster Aid was formed, to really focus on what we can do domestically in the 50 states and our territories, and then travel with fellow Rotarians around the world and become Disaster Aid International.
So the next question is anyone paid?
If you ever look at our website, our sometimes blurry literature, sometimes our misspelling, there is not a professional paid person on staff. So if you've got, we always ask Rotarians, I forget to ask, if doing literature, if helping me maintain darts, if you can help me keep medical records. So no one is paid, and sometimes it looks that way. So sometimes we're slow to respond, and I apologize for that, but we do not have anyone on staff. We're all volunteers.
So how do us as Rotarians get involved?
And that's the other thing I always forget to ask Rotarians. I mean, we are a club project. I'm from a club in Cypress Fairbanks. We're holding international district in 5890 in 2 years. But we're a club of 30 people. So I always forget to ask. So on the website, there's actually something called an application. You just fill it out. We give you a call back, and we kind of find out exactly what you want to do. Do you just want to do communications? Do you want to get trained and be deployed either domestically or internationally? So it's just really the ask of what a Rotarian wants to do. And just because you're the banker, I don't want you to be the secretary or the treasurer. I know people like to change roles. So if you're a nurse or a professional, then go out and help us on the care side. Wonderful. If you're a chainsaw expert, you want a chainsaw, you want to come out and just cook with us. So whatever your talent is, we'd like to use it.
So tell us all where you have been deployed in the past.
It'll come up, but on the international side, when we leave the States, Disaster Aid USA with our other 8 fellow countries become Disaster Aid International. And I was been deployed to Haiti. I've been, which was always Haiti. Then of course Fiji was a little nicer, but it's still Fiji. Vanuatu, and then almost 3 weeks in the Philippines. On the domestic side, just about every corner of the U.S. I didn't get to go to Hawaii. We just delivered tents there. So anywhere from the top part of California down to the tip of Florida, we've had domestic disasters, mostly in the Gulf Coast. But you know, we responded to the mudslides in California after the fires. So if you've got a special spot of America that you want to be deployed to, just let us know and we'll send you there.
And then does Disaster Aid USA work with any other agencies?
We do. When I go through the presentation, I kind of gloss over that, but if you're involved with the Red Cross, if you're involved with Shelter Box, if you're a CERT member, you know, Citizen Emergency Response Team, if you're a retired firefighter, a nurse, you've got that background training we're looking for. But just because you haven't done it, I did not do anything on domestic cleanup. Being a chemical background, I'm really good at hazmat spills, working with firemen, but, you know, going into a domestic like this and, you know, if you've got expertise and point of distribution, that's what we're looking for. So it's just kind of whatever people like to do. We like to find a way for them to have service within Disaster Aid USA.
And then I'm sure you're going to get to it in your presentation, but maybe right before that, where you currently have people on the ground working.
So up in we call it North Louisiana. So kind of up in the Ruston area, Alexandria, they've got one of our domestic trailers. So we have 15 trailers positioned around the U.S. and then clubs or communities just borrow them. So Ruston, Louisiana is right next to Shreveport. Part of their district is Alexandria. So they got chainsaw crews working all week and weekend. We've got another one parked in Vidor, Texas, which is about 2 hours east from where I'm at in Houston. And I'll take that trailer this weekend and just do nothing but cut wood and then do a muck and gut if necessary. So then we've got another team deployed in Pensacola. We've got 2 trailers parked in Miami. They drove them all the way across the state so they could be in the panhandle because ours are kind of busy in Louisiana. So 15 are positioned, and we're always looking for clubs to adopt us as a project and kind of help us cover the spots we don't have.
Really interesting story. Tell us, before you go to the presentation, this was posted in the chat box, but how many volunteers do you currently have?
If I was better organized, I could tell you exactly how many members. I can tell you that we've got about 75 clubs that have us adopted as an actual project. And I would say on our last call out count, we call it, we're actually physically sent Facebook and people that wanted. We've got about 250 Rotarians that may work with us this year. They may not do a thing for 2 or 3 years, but about 250 people that are actually interested in going out and volunteering in different aspects with us.
And then one last thing, kind of as an off question to that, is you're talking about Rotary clubs adopting you as a project. So how does that happen?
We just ask, I'm going to use Rotary words very carefully, but all we need is a Rotarian in the club to want to do the project. So just like all of us do different dictionary projects, all of us do different food drive projects, we are a club project of my club and every member within Disaster Aid USA. So in my club of 30, about 5 of us do disaster aid. My club loves what I do. They're like, here's some money, go cut some wood, see you in 2 weeks, Mr. President-elect. So just make sure you show up for Monday meetings. It's that simple. You just ask to join and then the board approves it. We always like to be approved by the board and by the incoming president. So you've got more interaction when the whole club wants to do it. That's what we found.
And then do you receive any international global grants?
Disaster Aid International has. We're one of 8 countries. So when we do some of the water projects that I'll talk about on the international side, so I'll start with domestic and then always lead into international. We have received both district and global grants for the water projects. The tents don't qualify, just like ShelterBot, we don't qualify for a global grant because it's not sustainable, but on the water projects, they are.
And then lastly, you don't have to do it right now, but how can we find you on, someone's asked if you could post the Facebook page name of Disaster Aid USA.
Okay, you're asking me to do 2 things at one time. I'm a man. That's not going to happen. I would say it should be Disaster Aid USA and Facebook. And I've got my handy dandy. Let me double check that. I know we're disasteraidusa.org as far as websites, and then there's a Facebook link right there. We've got a very savvy Rotarian who links all that stuff together. So I hate to give out the wrong Facebook post because we have changed a couple things to try to keep up with the times as far as multi-level platforms on media.
No worries. Maybe Mary or Terry or someone here could look that up and post that in the chat box. We want you to get to your presentation. Don't worry about doing 2 things at one time.
I was going to say, you know us men, we're not good at multitasking.
That's right. Your presentation is going to be exciting as it is. So how about let's get to that.
All right, let me hit the share screen. We'll get it going. Everything up and running properly?
Yes, sir. Looks good.
All right, so Disaster Aid USA, rebuilding communities together. If you look at the 2 pieces of the logo, it's a broken community, and we try to put those 2 pieces back together. So that's what the logo is, and sometimes I forget to explain it. So we use the same logo in the USA as I do in Canada, Malaysia. So when you travel as a Rotarian, we're both helping rebuild the communities by working with local Rotary clubs either domestically or internationally. Front cover is us the day after Christmas up in Garland, Texas, when a tornado went through. And then on the right is one of the pictures of our 15 domestic trailers. That's how we brand everything. Sometimes you see the Rotary Circle within the past USA, but that was improperly branded, but that's the right way to brand it. And then underneath, it says sponsored by Rotary, and then that's where I put the district numbers in. They just happen to be my 2 district logos. So right now we've got about, in my area, about 6 districts that support us, so I need to update that. But that's how we kind of brand ourselves. The reason why we brand ourselves is I probably get more questions on what is Rotary than I get on what is disaster aid by the community when they see us working. Or the best line I love is, I didn't know Rotary did that. So we're always going to say we're disaster aid, and we're always going to proudly say that we're Rotarian members from across the country. We are a true 501c3. We are set up in the District of Columbia. 82% of all our donations go back into the field. And what I mean by that is we do have to pay for pets. I do have to pay sometimes for zone conferences. Sometimes I do have to fly members around and, of course, reimburse people. So 82% of all of your funds that are donated go into the field. And that's just one of our bylaws, and that bylaw will never change. Our goal is to get that to 90%, but it does cost money to print literature, name tags, send Rotarians around. And so I'm always very, very honest. If anyone ever asks for our financial statement, we'll send it to you, and you will be amazed at what we do with what little is donated. We always do have a mission statement. We always talk about how we are and what we are and how we were started. So in the beginning, Disaster Aid International was formed from Disaster Aid USA, Disaster Aid Australia, and of course, Disaster Aid Canada. All of them still heavily involved with tents around the world, with water projects, but we're the only country that does domestic. When I say a true club project, past District Governor Bob Grill, this was founded in his club of 30 people. Larry, who is from the Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I'll be at his house cutting wood this weekend, his club was 40 people. Now it says it's a treasure spot's open, so anyone who wants to be a bean counter, who wants to do a once a month board meeting, you're more than welcome. We're always looking for a treasurer. And then we're going to break it down for Rotarians that are new. We actually break this down. The way we do directors is the same way that Rotary does the Rotary World. So the map on the next page is old. I'm basically chairman over 21B, which is now 25B. And then Bob stepped down as chairman of the board because he's 83 and said, Wayne, you're now the chairman of the board, and we're all volunteers, so good luck. So as we flip to the next chart, that is how the Rotary World is set up for Rotarians who've never seen it. So I'm in charge of little 21B, which is just really supposed to be that little part of Texas. So ignore Mexico. I'm not in charge of Mexico. So when I first came on board, I was a zone director, and I talked about what we do in 21B. And then that's how the zones are set up. So the poor guy above me in Idaho has all of zone 27 to cover. For those who don't know, zones are set up by membership, and we just lost almost 2 zones after the last redistricting of zones. So I am in charge of 21B. And now, since I got elected, I'm in charge of all the zones with Bob and Larry and develop those. So if you see your zone, that's how the old zones are, and I'll correct the map here once I get the new one from RI. So I think Terry will love this. I added this after the last presentation that he had me on. For those Rotarians, I am in a fellowship. I am in a beer fellowship. I am in the whiskey fellowship. I am in the wine fellowship. But disaster aid is also in what's called a Rotary Action Group. For those who don't know what that is, those are actual groups of Rotarians. In our case, we are the Disaster Network, ourselves, Shelter Box, American Red Cross, all of us that do disasters make up that DNA rag. So we're an actually working group. So after these scenarios of what we do domestically, I will report back to the DNA rag of what we did and how we did it. So we can really improve the communications of what Rotarians do. Because I think we do disasters great, we do dictionary projects great, we dig wells great, but no one ever knows what we do. So we're trying to use these templates within the Disaster Network group to have a better call out for volunteers. when we show up to a city like Lake Charles, people know that we're coming, and not just us, but our fellow Rotarians know that we're there to help them. So I put that in there because a lot of people are in fellowships, but they're not in action groups. So I'd say Rotarians, if you've got a desire for water, we call it Wash Rag, join the Wash Rag group. You want to go out there and you're a pilot, you're a quilter, you're an author, join those action groups or join a fellowship. That's how Terry and I met, and Terry's the reason why I'm presenting to you today. So I wanted to thank Terry. I better add his, if I know you can hear me, Terry, if you send me the little whiskey one, I'll put it right on there since I'm a member of all three. I'll add that to my presentation. Thank you. So how in the world can a little club like Cypress Fairbanks run a district? And actually, I'm going to use this, and I know I'm being recorded. How do I take the power away from a district governor that changes every year and establish a footprint that's repeatable? And that's real simple, and that's set up your own board. So Disaster Aid USA is set up. 80% of us have to be Rotarians or Rotaractors, but I do not report to my governor. I don't report to the president of my club. I report to my board. So each of us set a board up. I'm in Zone 21B. That's my 5890 is my board. That is my board for my portion of disaster aid. Those are the 5 people I ask what I want to do. It's that simple. Yes, I respect governors. The Rotary Wheel works, and I'll get into how we do a call out. The Rotary Wheel works with our district governors and our zone directors. But if you look at the outside of the Rotary Wheel, those 24 cogs, that's us. That's us making that wheel turn. They help me get that wheel turning. So yes, I will, of course, pick up the phone when a governor calls me. But when I go this weekend, if the governor of Pensacola never calls me, I do not need their permission to be there to do my work. And sometimes you just have to be that quick. I can't sit around waiting for a vote. Never going to happen. So we do a call out, and this is kind of like for what I get into for Rotarians when I do just club talks, is this is what we look for as what kind of training. If you come on board with disaster aid and you've never had FEMA training, you've never had Salvation Army training, which does by far the best domestic training in the country for free. Second to the Red Cross, who does domestic training for free. And then we do our own Disaster Aid USA training. I put you in a tent. I make you fetch water. I don't make you, I ask you to fetch water. And then we make the water nice and dirty and show you how easy it is to filter water around the world. And the thing I always gloss over is I'm always looking for emergency management trained people. Point of distribution, last 3 weeks, the Rotary Club of Westlake and Lake Charles have been handing out hygiene kits, been handing out water, been handing out food. So we've got this stream of trucks that are going from Houston over to Louisiana. We've got 3 warehouses where we put actual donations in. Those get sorted and then handed back out to the public. So we call it a pod training, point of distribution. If you are good at management like that, there's always a place for you in a domestic and even an international call out. Mental health and stress, a lot of times when someone wants to pray or wants to get right with whatever God they're with, that's not my gift. I have them go to Salvation Army or through the network of churches that we work with. This weekend, we'll be working nothing with the Baptist and the Methodist, and the church groups are fantastic. So I don't try to go out there and preach as a Rotarian. It's kind of really not my gift. But we do always looking for people for mental health and stress. EMT and paramedics, I need you when I'm chainsawing in case I cut my finger, but most importantly, EMT and paramedics understand this world better than myself. When you go into a city that's under martial law, we were in Lake Charles for the first 2 weeks. There was a 7 p.m. curfew. You had to be off the streets or you could be picked up. Of course, I don't have any rescue, but I'm always looking for rescue divers. Again, not my gift, but other people want to do that. And we do have a boat in the Cajun Navy. So if you are a diver and want to go on there, you're more than welcome. And then last but not least, we just have some teams that do nothing but water filtration, and we'll get into water filtration. So if doing filtration is your thing, we've got an avenue for you to do that. So domestic, you asked me where we've been. Here is some of the domestic deployments that we've been at. The first one up there in Alabama, Larry jumped in his truck and grabbed his chainsaws. That's what we did. We didn't have 15 trailers. Bob ran up to Superstorm Sandy and he had to borrow Judy's truck, and we put diapers and water, and that's when we made our first delivery, thinking we do such great work international, why can't we do domestic? Hard to figure out. I never thought, being from Houston, Texas and Harris County, that during Harvey, 175,000 homes got flooded. I never thought they'd ask Rotary to come help. And we did over 225 homes and had hundreds of Rotarians in town doing home hosting, putting them up in hotels. I mean, people wanted to come help. So we found if you have an avenue, people will come help. So you'll see stuff from there. Obviously from the Gulf Coast, we're going to deal with hurricanes and flooding more than anything. And yes, we were up there in your neck of the woods, up in the Carolinas, because if it misses us, we know it's swinging towards you. So that's probably our biggest gap, Donald, is we've got a member in the Carolinas, but we don't have a domestic trailer there. So that'd be my biggest ask out of your network, is where can we station somewhere in the Carolinas so I don't have to bring one down from Morgantown, West Virginia, or have it brought up out of Miami. That's a domestic trailer. And then let's talk about the dart training. This was our last international dart training. Larry and myself and one other gentleman out of the UK trained for all international darts. So out of that group of people there are only, let me see, there's 5 Americans, the rest are international. So they came into the Baltimore area and we put them on the field and we make them fetch water and do all the fun things I talked about. So my biggest question usually is, what do we look like? That's what you look like when you muck and gut. They are full of mud, drywall. The only guy who's clean's on the far right, and not because he's a Rotarian, but because he's the pool expert. So he was in a pool showing me how to properly take water out of a pool so I don't pop a liner. So our goal is to always find someone's expertise. That's a muck and gut crew. And the reason why we're wearing Operation Blessing shirts is we're never in charge as Rotarians. We're always a support group. When we show up, and we'll show you how it happened in Lake Charles, Operation Blessing was picked to run this. Sometimes it's Samaritan's Purse. Sometimes it's Team Rubicon. Rotary will never be in charge of a cleanup because we don't have full-time employees. This is not our bailiwick. Operation Blessing is a fantastic organization. If you've never heard of them, they're out of Virginia Beach, Virginia, and they are backed by the 700 Club. And they have full-time staff that go around and do domestic and international. This is actually Larry Agee on the right. He is doing a water rescue out of Vidor, Texas, which is by Beaumont. The gentleman next to him is one of the Interact kids that came with him for the weekend. And then this is a typical muck and gut. I work with the Rotary Community Corps here, and him and I are physically cutting out an old school tongue and groove floor that had a foot of water sit on it for 2 weeks before we got there. The first one I responded to was Bill Hall from my district, and these are all the fellow Rotarians that were helping me muck and gut his home. And sadly, after we did a muck and gut, a year later, he just knocked it down and sold the property because the lot was worth more money than rebuilding the house in Houston. And sometimes it's that basic. It really just doesn't help sometimes to rebuild. Now, speaking of a rebuilder, the gentleman on my left, that is a fellow Rotarian, works for Liberty Mutual. He is a regional manager over 3 states. And guess what Jerry forgot to renew before Harvey hit? His flood insurance. So Rotarians, check your documents to make sure that your flood insurance is good. You've got the proper wind deduction. You want a great Rotary program, all of you bring in your declaration pages and have it read to see what you need. So he reminds me to remind people to check your documents. The picture on the right, of course, is myself and Jerry, and then that couple right there, Mark and Nancy Matthews, are the reason why we have a commercial drying trailer after 40 years in the carpet restoration business. He's the person that we send in to do the true muck and gut and train you. This is just me pulling the trailer and showing up. And then let's get into really what we did. I'm going to skip over COVID. So during COVID, we did do what we call I hate to use this word, we were delivering masks and hand sanitizers, and we were delivering groceries to those that were stuck at their house. So during COVID, I didn't think we would do anything domestically, and we came up with a program where people would call us, and they would pay for their groceries, and then we would deliver it. Quickly set up a COVID team, did exactly what they're doing out of Washington, D.C. as far as what to do and not to do, set up the communications, and then got into delivering groceries, set up a dedicated number. Thank you, Ring Central, for letting us do that. Then, of course, it's hurricane season. This is what it looks like. This is our main page. This is then when they went to West Virginia. So people always ask me, how can I donate? And I'm horrible at the donation part. Obviously, we need always donations to put Rotarians out there. Old school, send a check. Please do it per PayPal or however you guys want to get involved with us. So I'm not asking for money today. I'm always asking for volunteers, but we always have to ask for the donations and the door openers and the doers. If you care, during COVID, we sold masks over 200, now it's 250,000 masks at our cost. So we've got connections in China. If you still need masks in your area, surgical mask is actually, it's down to 17 cents from $1. The KN95 is down to $1. So if you still need masks for your area, we can talk offline and get you masks to get you covered. Let's talk about Lake Charles. That is how I pulled into Lake Charles. Always flying the rotary wheel anywhere we go, which wasn't fun because that upper left hand, so as I was going down the main road to deliver the trailer, that is a high intensity line that is on the ground. That is one of those towers. You can't see it. I'll zoom it in, but there's a cable right at 6 foot 11 inches and my trailer's at 7 foot. So I got to go around that, go down the ditch, unhook the trailer, slowly pull it with some help. And I always forget to tell people, this is why we don't respond right away. Though this electrical tower is down, you're still looking at thousands of pounds of weight. Finally gets to deliver the trailer. Larry, whose helm we're at, had no power for almost 4 weeks. And he's our executive director. He knows what to do in a disaster. The problem is when it happens to you, things get different. We get there, we always lay out our gear, we count how much stuff we have. So I've got enough chainsaws. There are 6 chainsaws there. So that means I need at least 12 chainsaw people. I need 18 people pulling branches. So that's how we lay it out. We lay out what equipment do we have, what have we been assigned, and how many people do I need? So that is not child abuse, though they are young adults. We had a big church group come down and help all weekend. They're children, they're 8, 9, and 10 years old. Their parents are off to the side watching, but these young adults pulled branches 6 hours a day, 2 days in a row, and all they wanted to do was chainsaw. So there's me with a little battery operated chainsaw letting them have some fun. And they had an absolute blast. The reason why the girl is in the pink is because she's cutting the biggest branch. The boys were afraid to cut the big branch, so she got to cut the big branch for a change. How do things work? There's me at Operation Blessing. I'm wearing my Salvation Army tag. So that tag around my neck gets me past a checkpoint. That lets the local parish sheriff know that I've been trained and I'm there for a reason. We check in with Operation Blessing. That happens to be Brenda, who's giving out the work orders. In the middle there, you can see someone's name and their address. They need debris removal. So that means Operation Blessing. Again, someone has to call the person or go by their house. So even if you can't do chainsaw work, even if you don't feel like going, we still need people to go do what we call assessments and make sure that what they're asking for is what they need. And here's the sad part about Lake Charles and Pensacola. Operation Blessing does a 9 to 9:30, we call it a check-in, where all the volunteers check in. You get a beautiful Operation Blessing t-shirt. They usually get 150 to 200 people on a Saturday. That Saturday, there were 10 people there, and we were 4 of them. So the reason why you ask what's taking so long with the cleanup, or people ask, is no one is coming, probably because of COVID. So same thing in Pensacola. Operation Blessing is there. They're getting less than 20 workers on a Saturday. So there's our work crew. They happen to be, most of them are Rotarians. That's Larry in the middle. Dan on the right drove all the way down from Idaho. That's Mark Matthews on the left, who was by far our best muck and gutter. And he was in town for 2 weeks of vacation prior to going on to 2 weeks of vacation. We get the order, and that's what we got. There's a house full of debris with a tarp on it. That is not the way you tarp a house, so we retarped it properly. That is everything that we did a muck and gut on the front. And then we got to cutting trees, and some of these cypress trees and live oaks are over 250 years old. That's Larry on a tractor. And that's his wife on a tractor, because I'm too afraid to get on a tractor and embarrass myself in front of people, but they're not. So sometimes we take the donor's money and we use it, in this case, and rent a tractor locally so we can pick up those logs and get them cut and moved to the front properly without anyone getting hurt. So that's yours truly on the right. And what I'm doing right there is I'm teaching this volunteer right here who's 58 years old, never touched the chainsaw. And he was like me. I was always afraid of chainsaws until someone showed me how to use it. So a lot of our volunteers have never touched the power equipment, and we put on the equipment, we put on the chaps, and we will teach you how to properly cut a tree. In this case, he wanted to chainsaw, he's chainsawing. So the best part about coming with us is we're still Rotarians, and we love our home host. So here we are at my house after a long weekend. We drove back here, and that is paella. For those who've never had it, we actually love to have our little wine or whiskey, Terry, in my case, and share a little bit of R&R. That's probably the best part of this, is learning who people are, and really these people aren't even Rotarians, but here they are volunteering with us. Bob Grill's our founder. And again, we're going to get into the international part here, and I'll go quicker on that. But we started Disaster Aid USA so we could help each other here domestically. Other Rotarians in other worlds, they look at us as a rich country and say, you guys can take care of yourself. So we get very little donations from outside of Rotary International. Other people just understand what we do. But something happens in the Bahamas, we respond. Something happens in Haiti, we as Americans respond. So whether this is right or wrong, the world looks at us upon as a rich country that we have to maintain ourselves and help ourselves. So let's talk about disaster aid. I'll go through this because I know I'm running out of time. What I like for you to look at is those are all the countries that make up what we do. If you have any connections in those worlds, if you love going to Australia and Ireland and Malaysia and India and Canada and Uruguay, when we travel together, then you become Disaster Aid International, which is recognized by Rotary as a cooperative partner. So each country that there makes up Disaster Aid International. Anywhere from India to Pakistan to the Philippines, we have been deployed with our tents, our shelter repair kits, our tarping, and most importantly, our water filtration. That just talks about what we do. Probably the thing that we do better than anyone else, we call it Smart Aid. We send the first team in there to do nothing but assess what's needed. I don't need to show up with 50,000 tarps if Salvation Army has 50,000 tarps. I don't need to show up with water tablets if WHO or UNICEF has 100,000 water tablets. So we go to the first meetings and find out exactly what's needed, and then start pulling our resources. Whether I'm ordering stuff from the Philippines, from China, from wherever we happen, we'll buy that stuff locally and put some money back in the economy. So my passion is always water. And if you look at that, that is not chocolate milk. That is the actual water that they pay to have delivered to their village, if you can believe that. That's what they drink every day. Those are the stats on dirty water, and they come from a reliable source, and those numbers are probably higher. I think it's ridiculous that many children die each year from dirty water, when we can easily clean it with a filter. This is what we always give out. Disaster Aid International, this is a product made in the States. It's called the Sawyer Family Filter. I have them on the trailer. We just had a boil alert. Run the water through this filter, and it's a 99.99% effective for fresh water, no salt water or brine water. It takes care of all the bacteria and protozoa in the water, and you'll see a quick little video of how it works. So Rotarians, if all you can do is donate 20 bucks, and this is what I always tell the interactors, for 20 bucks, you get a filter and a bucket, and it'll do over 1 million gallons before it wears out. And I'll show you how this thing works here real quick. This is what made me a believer. This is an actual Rotarian who I gave filters to take back with him. He's from Gilgil, Africa. This is Pastor Joe. That is the color of the water that comes out of their well. It's that dark, it's that dirty, and if I blow it up, it'll make you even less attractive. It's almost the same color as his black jacket. And you should never press it. So let's see if this will start. There we go.
Sawyer's hollow fiber membrane water filters are comprised of U-shaped microtubes that allow water to enter into their core through tiny micropores while trapping the bacteria and protozoa on the outside. The high volume of tubes creates an enormous surface area, which results in a very high flow rate and less cleaning. In fact, the surface area compared to a ceramic filter is about 20 to 1. So the 20th time you've cleaned your ceramic pump It will be the first time you have to clean your Sawyer filter. The all-in-one filter is great for emergency preparedness kits. The kit includes all the components to use the included 0.1 micron filter attached to a squeeze pouch, attached to your home faucet, or attached to a standard 5-gallon bucket. The build-your-own gravity system can yield up to 540 gallons of clean water per day from any fresh water source. If you're traveling overseas on a mission trip, you can always bring a squeeze filter and faucet adapter to ensure you have safe water on your trip. And then you can leave the filter and the bucket adapter components behind with a family in need.
They also make one that goes inline. This one does about 52,000 gallons a day. Costs us as Rotarians about $500. And then a big water system. I talked about the sky hydrant. This will do in series like this. That'll do 20,000 gallons a day, last 10 years. And what they're doing here is they're teaching the young children how to backwash this daily so the men can go in the fields and work. And no offense, if the young boys are doing this, then the young girls don't have to fetch water every day. So everything from a simple water filtration off of a bucket to a stand-up filter to something like this, which is a power wagon on a solar panel. People throw this in any fresh water source, and this will do about 2,500 gallons a day. So it doesn't have to be a complicated well drill to do water. It could be as simple as a filter in a bucket, or it could get down to a solar panel. Yes, we do tents, but like I talked about, for the one tent I do, Shelter Box does 100, but we still have our life box and our family survival pack that's still out there, branded with the rotary wheel. I'm going to do a stop share. I appreciate the attention and the time. And Donald, any questions that are in the chat box?
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it. Very informative presentation. There are several questions here, so we'll wrap this up kind of quick. How are you notified to respond to the impacted areas?
What we do is we've got a private Facebook account that the ambassadors are on, or the DARTs, and then we'll send out who can go. Also, all the ambassadors are working with the directors on a monthly basis, so we know who's available. So we do a call out. Unfortunately, it's still an email and a private Facebook because a private app. We're going to do an app, but it was too much money, so we still do it old school Facebook announcement to a closed group.
And then you mentioned earlier about trying to get a trailer in South Carolina. So when you ask for a location of a trailer, what is the criteria for the placement? Do you already have a trailer, or does the area need to raise money to purchase one?
We've got a couple extra trailers that we need to reposition. We just raised money for one on Global Giving. That one's going to be back in our area, probably stayed somewhere in Louisiana. But we've got an extra one that we need to reposition. Mine is parked outside at an RV park. And all I need is a Rotarian who's willing to wash it every now and then and keep it ready for us to either take out or have themselves take it out.
Do non-Rotarians participate in your organization or the RAG?
So in a Rotary Action Group, those are Rotarians. But in our group, again, 80% of the board has to be Rotarians. But the last picture that you saw of the 4 volunteers that were with me for a month, 2 are non-Rotarians. So you do not have to be a Rotarian, and I will take a young adult, at least have to be 14, or if you're a first class scout at 12, I'll take you at 12, as long as your parents are there with you.
Next is a comment. I think between both of the South Carolina districts, we should be able to house a trailer here in South Carolina. Next is, are you working with Water Missions in Charleston, founded by fellow Rotarian Molly Green?
No, I'm not. And if Donald, if you send me the information, we love, like I got involved with Living Water when I found out it was run by a Rotarian, and I always did sand filters. I still do sand filters. But no, if you've got a Rotary connection, we'd love to have another water expert and another way to get water filtration around the world.
I think between myself or Mary or Terry, we should be able to get you information on that. And then that person that asked that question was, through your presentation, they said, wow, convincing. And they made a $50 donation. So there you go. Can Rotary clubs buy these water filtering products through disaster aid?
You can buy them through us. We keep about 20 cases in stock, but if you as a Rotary club, if you go to Sawyer, they're in Safety Harbor, Florida, mention to them that you're a Rotary club and you'll get it at the current cost. And Donald, I will send you offline. I'll send you the gentleman who's in charge of filters. Right now, I think current cost was $15 for that drill bit, and there's 50 per case. You just pay the invoice and they'll send it to you.
Sorry. Ken, Rotary, let's see. What is the cost of a fully equipped trailer?
We get the trailers for about $5,000. It costs about another $5,000 to equip it. So we could put a target of 10. Obviously, sometimes, you know, if people donate to chainsaws, if people donate some of their equipment, it's less. But if you had to go, you know, top to bottom and buy everything, it's about $10,000.
And Wayne, there is a link to water missions in the chat box if you want to click on that and open it up so you have it afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your presentation, for your time, and especially for what you're doing around the country with disaster aid.
Thank you. Sorry I'm so good at mucking and gutting. There's just so many disasters lately.
No problem. All right. So also, several of us on the line have the Purple Pinky Polio Power in Polio Now background, which has been posted in the chat box for you to download. If you participate in a Zoom call over the month of October for Rotary, we'd love to see you use this as your background. So once again, that is in the chat box for you to download. And speaking of Purple Pinky Polio Power, our district polio chair, Bernie Rydell, is here with me in Myrtle Beach getting ready for a presentation to Chicora Rotary. So that will also be a Zoom call for all of you to log on to coming up at 12:30. If you want to be part of that, it's on the front page of DACDB is how you can get the information on how to log in. But Bernie is here in Myrtle Beach. Looking forward to his presentation. And thank you guys for your time this morning here on CWRAP. I will conclude with the Rotary four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Have a wonderful, and actually that information for the 12:30 Zoom call was just posted in the chat box. Hope everyone has a wonderful Friday and a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday for the next Conversations with Rotary Action People. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Wayne. That was very good.